Good evening if you're in Europe. Good afternoon or good morning if you're on the East Coast or the West Coast. This is John Paval with Access Arts Live, bringing you your weekend update of live streams of the performing arts this weekend. Now, I am a very happy man. We have an awful lot to tell you about. We have more than I'll be able to tell you about in detail, but I can tell you about the grown-up stuff, and then we can put a lot of information about a bunch of youth concerts this weekend, 6 to be exact. Some of which are going to be free live streams and some of which will be paid live streams, but with most of the money going to the young artists. So without further ado, let us launch into this. Now, we don't have any opera this weekend. We don't have any ballet, but there will be an opera singing competition coming from Australia, and there will be some dance music coming from the London Symphony Orchestra, which is not bad. All right, let's start out right away with Friday night. On the West Coast in the U.S., the Icicle Creek Chamber Music Festival. Now, Icicle Creek is located about 120 miles east of Seattle. It's in a very sylvan area. It would be a lovely place to go spend a weekend attending a music festival like this. The Icicle Creek Chamber Music Festival has been going on for 30 years, so they must be doing something right. The tickets, online tickets, are $15. Or 14 euros. We give you the link to where you go to get the ticket. They have a very interesting program. They like to mix up contemporary composers with more traditional classic composers. Friday, they start out with three pieces for piano. There are four hands, so there'll be two pianists at it, by Fanny Mendelssohn Henso. Fanny Mendelssohn was the sister of the famous Felix Mendelssohn. So it could be interesting to find out how she composed and how it relates to what Felix did. That's followed by a woman, a composer who was born in the Victorian era, in the late 1800s, Rebecca Clark, her Prelude, Allegro, and Pastoral for clarinet and viola. Then another piece by a Spanish 20th century Spanish composer, Joaquin Turina, the Piano Trio No. 2 in B minor, and winds up becoming more classic again with Mozart's Gran Sestetto Concertante for string sextet. Saturday at the same time slot. I don't know if I gave you the time, 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 10 o'clock on the East Coast, and a lovely 4 o'clock in the morning in Europe. But if you really love chamber music, this is a chance to hear some good stuff. Saturday, in the same time schedule, they start off with another four-hander. It's Schubert's Lebensstürme for piano for four hands. They continue with some contemporary composers, Anne Southam's Glass Houses No. 11. She's a Canadian composer who does compositions of things like 12-tone music, which, frankly, I do not understand. I've never understood. But if you do understand it, you might like it. Eleanor Alberga's The Wild Blue Yonder for piano and violin. She's a Jamaican composer, but she lives in the UK now. And, you know, back in the days, I don't think they gave chamber music titles like The Wild Blue Yonder. So I'm happy we live in our time. This is then followed by a contemporary Italian composer, Solima, his Arboreto Salvatico for two cellos. These are all interesting changes of the kinds of instruments that they blend together, but they wind up again with a very classic and very lovely Serenade for Strings by Dvorak, Opus 22, for those of you who are keeping track of opuses. That's for Friday and Saturday chamber music, but also on Saturday you have an opportunity early in the day in the U.S. and late in the afternoon in Europe. The London Symphony Orchestra annual open-air concert sponsored by BMW, whom we can only warmly thank for also making it possible for us to view this and enjoy this concert free of charge. It's Saturday at 5 o'clock p.m. London time, which is 6 o'clock p.m. in all the rest of Europe, because the Brits, they're not on the same wavelength as the rest of Europe. Brexit was not a surprise for those of us who know. It took them forever to join the European Union, and then, then it took forever for them to get out. But anyway, without getting into politics, that's at noon on the East Coast. It's at 9 in the morning, Pacific Daylight Time, free of charge. It's on YouTube. They start out, these are all crowd pleasers of what they're going to be playing at an open air concert. They start out with a lovely piece, a very bon vivant piece, Joyeuse Marche, the Joyous March by Emmanuel Chabrier, a real sort of a Parisian trendsetter in the 19th century. When the French were still setting trends, is followed by a dance piece by Johannes Brahms, the Rondo alla Zingarese, which I think is about gypsy music as well as I understand it. They wind up with the entire score of Igor Stravinsky's wonderful ballet, Petrushka. But in between all of that, they are doing the world premiere of a composition which was commissioned expressly for this concert by Joanna Lee, who is best known as an opera composer. And this is a piece written for what's called a mixed ability orchestra. If you know what that means, it's played by all of the LSO musicians plus 70 young musicians from East London who are part of the LSO Discovery Program. And I think that any contemporary classical piece for mixed ability orchestra, which brings together a whole orchestra plus 70 kids from East London, is, to say the least, out of the ordinary. So you might want to tune into it at 9 in the morning or noon in the US, and for your Sunday early evening here in Europe at 6 p.m. That's it for Saturday for the grown-ups. And then on Sunday, there are two more concerts. There is an organ recital, again, as part of the ongoing series at Saint Eustache Church, l'Église Saint Eustache, which has the largest pipe organ in all of France. And it's their head organist, Baptiste Florian Marle Ouvrard. I love that name, who is playing on Sunday, free of charge on YouTube. They like to start out their organ recitals with a piece from the 18th century, like the 1700s. And that's what they're doing on this Sunday. But this Sunday is July 14th, Bastille Day. So they're starting out with two pieces by Claude Balbastre, who wrote the Marseillaise, Allons enfants de la patrie, etc. I don't know if the audience will be singing along, but Marle Ouvrard will be playing Balbastre's La Marche des Marseillais, and he'll also be playing a very popular air from the same era called Ça ira. This will then be followed by a 20th century composer, two pieces by Jean Langlais. The first is Chant héroïque, meaning a heroic chant, and the second is the Chant de Paix, the Song of Peace, which we could sure use in our time. Then next he plays a piece by a man who must be the greatest organist composer of all time, the great Olivier Messiaen. His Apparition de l'Église éternelle, the appearance of the eternal church. And if you're not a believer, I'm telling you, some people listening to some of Messiaen's music, they get converted by it. And then he will wind up with Trois Poèmes pour Orgue, 3 poems for the organ by contemporary composer Thierry Esquèche, who lives in Paris. And I'm sure that Marle Ouvrard and Thierry know each other personally. Then later in the evening, we're not done yet. I told you there's a lot. I'm so happy about this. Then topping it off is the Seattle Chamber Music Festival, which is continuing through all of the month of July. So we'll be back with more of this when we do our Monday roundup of everything that's coming up next week. This is at 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, which will be 5 in the evening on the East Coast, and a comfortable 11 o'clock in the evening in Europe. Perfectly lovely time to listen to chamber music at the end of your peaceful Sunday evening, votre paix dominicale, as the French say. These again are $30 US or 28 euros. So you got to have a nice wallet, or at least really appreciate chamber music. This particular concert is Germans with a B. Selections from the 44 duos of Bela Bartok, variations on a theme by Haydn, by Johannes Brahms, and Beethoven's Septet in E-flat major, opus 20. We will include in the links also a link to the program of the concert, and the Seattle Chamber Music Festival programs are always very interesting to read. So that's it for the grown-up concerts. But as I told you, this weekend there are at least 6 youth musician concerts or competitions going on. We will put the details of the times and the link so you can find them, and whether it's free of charge or whether there is a charge for it. The ones, especially from down under in Australia, where there is a charge, they say that most of the money goes to the young artists themselves. So, you will in effect be helping to subsidize some young musicians if you tune in and buy a ticket for it. But it includes a piano competition, an opera singer competition, 2 youth orchestras in Australia. Then there's the Icicle Creek youth musicians concert on Saturday afternoon, and then the National Symphony Orchestra has its Summer Music Institute concert on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, for the other times. Folks, we try to keep the weekend update down to roughly 10 minutes time, so I'm winding this up, but there was just so much to tell you about, and I couldn't even get to all of it. We'd be here for 20 minutes if I gave you all 6 of those youth concerts, but you can figure them out for yourself and follow the link and make up your own mind. Let me remind you, we would love it if you would follow us, especially on Facebook, because we're live streaming on X and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube, but not yet on Facebook. So we want a few more subscribers there so we can do that. And also to repost these videos and our other written announcements of upcoming live streams. If you can, we want to help attract this global audience, which we know exists for the performing arts, and bring them online. Tens of millions of people are viewing viral videos on TikTok and YouTube of ballet singing and of ballet dancing and of opera singing. And there's a Vivaldi quartet, which has gotten 140 million views on social media. And if just a fraction of that, if 10% of those audiences can start watching these kind of live streams, the kind of revenues that could be generated could encourage so many other performing arts companies to do so. And online performing arts could be shared not by tens or hundreds or thousands of people, but by millions of people. And we think it's a great thing. It would be a great thing to have millions of people around the world sharing the same vibrations of truth and beauty at the same time, which can only be done if we get them all hooked up at the same time live when the artists are singing and dancing and playing their hearts out for us. So that's our vision of the future. We hope you like it. I hope you enjoy some of this weekend's live streams. I know that I certainly will, especially the free ones. Ciao for now. Have a great weekend.